Beautiful. Thank you kindly, everybody, for your time and ears today, your voices, hopefully. We're here at the Stacks Governance Working Group call, number 64. We usually start by stand-ups and I mean, just let us know how you guys have been doing, if we haven't already done some brief check-ins with each other, and what everybody's working on, right, in terms of governance, or if it's slightly related to governance. We usually go through any blockers and what will happen over the next couple of weeks, right? So I know we have some exciting updates for you guys, that right in line with some of our previous updates in these calls around decision-making mechanisms and bringing in indigenous modes into our tooling and advocates, along with models that hopefully help the tooling along. But I'll wait to get into some of that and look for other folks stand-ups. I know we may have quite a few today. So I'll shut up now and pass it along. Haz, I know maybe you can get us started with some of the good stand-ups, or anybody who's comfortable going.
I can go. I don't think that we made these updates to the working group, but we've been working on both a consensus flow to align people through dialogue around an issue, to get to consensus around an issue, to find creative solutions to even support people impacted by that issue, and shedding some light on that impact and these people. A few issues that I can give examples of. I think that have already, all the issues have already passed. One example is just defining what it means to be an advocate, just to prevent spam, and even not having any impressions of people spamming the system and trying to get value out of it. So this is just to make it clear that this is not the space for such a thing. Another one is to account for cooldowns, because we pay advocates out of the stacking pool that the foundation delegated to Freaker, and we don't have we didn't have before a mechanism for handling cooldowns, which happens every 6 months. So we also added a mechanism by taking 50%, 42% instead of 50% of the rewards of each cycle. Just these simple things. Also switching to XBDC soon, where this is the current proposal right now. And so far we've had 100% success rate. I think we have not that many proposals, maybe 5, maybe 6. But I think we've been lucky to have an aligned community on the message, and I think also feeling of collective responsibility to assist, help address concerns even, and this has been amazing. Another thing that we've been working on is Journeys. Journeys is our way of translating or getting people who want to work on small tasks, or even bigger tasks, but not huge, medium tasks, building stuff, doing some work in the community and getting recognized for it, moderation, support, even during weekends. Crypto never sleeps, a phrase that I take from Hero Gamer, one of our advocates. The journey is about supporting community members who do not know how to access grants, or have no idea about applying for a grant, or even for pretty diverse projects that does not, that isn't about building apps or protocols or contracts or any kind of like dev heavy stuff, focusing on support, moderation, even like providing ideation for governance, for like doing actually recording. I think one of the things that I think that the governance working group has been thinking of, just like how to compensate such a thing. I think that the issue is still open in the governance working group. This is also something that we've been thinking about, especially in journeys, like recurring tasks. I think we've been working to resolve that through this this flow of journeys that is done instead of like proposals or applications to receive a grant. You just like have a dialogue, and through that dialogue and through that community organization around it and support around it, you form that trust, and through that trust you then go to like the grant. I think we have also been discussing some paths to to join like our efforts with the grants program. I think we received like really positive feedback on the work that we're doing. So we're excited to be working with Will and Jenny on that front. There is also this tool inside of Journeys that is microDAOs that enable small teams to manage their funds, to pay themselves and pay others through Discord commands that then open a web page, and then you confirm a transaction through that web page. As an example, instead of just having like keeping everything within the community and keeping everything within Discord, so that the flow from discussion to action is easier. Since everything happens in Discord, you just like type a command, a / command in Discord, and just like, hey, I'm going to deposit this amount of money, or I'm going to create a funding proposal that's going to fund these 5 people to do that kind of work. This is only one component. I think it's also like the last component of Journeys. But I've been personally reaching out with Hero Gamer to other communities to integrate this consensus-based microDAO in multiple projects. I think we've been working with someone called Agva in Brazil, who's intending to who is like the first alpha journey, who's intending to do like a conference in Brazil, and we created this microDAO contract for that idea to fund him, and to actually receive like have receive donations, or receive like continue pooling money if there was a possibility. I donated like 200 STX, and Hero I think tested it with 1 STX, and yeah, I think this is going to be like the first alpha journey. I'm working closely with Agva on this journey, but other than that, the last update, I know it took so much time, is I don't know if you guys know about MathStar. I think it's like it's an NFT collection. They want to build a game and so on. And right now, I'm going to have a meeting with them tomorrow to discuss integrating microDAO for like small tasks like moderation and so on, which it's very applicable. But yeah, these are like all the updates that I have.
That was beautiful, and I would have stopped you earlier, but I think you needed all of that to get all those updates in. And it's exciting stuff. I know Jason has been listening closely to the progress in that, and it's good for other folks that may catch the recording or haven't been tracking what's been going on in terms of all that work. And maybe outside of the stand-up, you can give us a little bit of a demo. I don't know if folks have seen it in any of the governance working group recordings yet. In terms of what it looks like. I know you were briefly talking to somebody in the Discord about a demo, and maybe this recording can do that for them. But it's up to you. We'll circle back to you, of course, later on. But of course, my updates go alongside of Haas's in a lot of ways. On the system design side, though, I'll just give brief updates onto, the tooling that Haas is referencing right now is pretty remarkable because it does, stand on its own in terms of function, right? And what we're really excited for is all the system design that we're wrapping around it. Haas has spent countless hours with us, making sure to understand what these models are when coming up with implementations for the tooling. So a lot of the tooling is really built for the models that we are already beginning to expose to the advocates and the system design models and the indigenous modes models. And so that's actually what's coming up later today. And we'll be meeting around some of the clan system design and flow that makes use of this tooling. And so the subtle ways that Haas has built in dissent as opposed to majority vote, and other subtleties in the contracts for the microDAOs that really speak to these motifs of autonomy and functional autonomy that we've learned in these indigenous modes has been a beautiful thing. And we also plan to work with Dada later on in the week, who's been a deep inspiration for our research, working alongside Primavera out of Harvard Blockchain Research, but also a big inspiration in some of what they're doing system design wise and visualization wise that we can wrap around this tooling to really get some of the bottom-up effect that's also embedded into the tooling through the bottom-up quorum phases and visible windows of time that folks have left to participate in decision making. All this has been beautiful to see built right into Discord, have all the on and off chain potential that we would hope for with Haas hacking away at PolicyKit. And so this is some of the thinking that's gone alongside of all of this component building by Haas in the recent weeks. And hopefully we get to see some of these design implementations come into even more fruition, get more fleshed out by the end of the week with our work with the Dada working group. So I'll shut up there and pass the stand up to somebody else here. I know there are quite a few folks that have been active alongside us as well in advocates and other places. Yeah, I'll pass it along whoever wants to go.
I'll just jump in real quick. So on my end, I did go ahead and close out the issue around having a domain. So we officially have stacksgov.com. It's running out of my account, and it was brought up that it'd be great to have that in like a community-owned account or something similar. But that is just more setup, who's responsible, everything else. So I'm happy to do that. Maybe if the foundation wanted to take it or anybody else, I'm totally open to it. But for now, I figured let's just get it done and have it be there. So that's probably the biggest update on my side. I am working through a whole bunch of upgrades and stuff going on with the CityCoins ecosystem, but I do love what's come out with microDAOs. Very excited with that, Haas. I like what you're doing there. So I've been sharing back both the progress that I've seen either via Twitter or GitHub, as well as some of the decision-making progress too, because I think when we're talking about making individual voices heard, especially in the context of the city, there is a lot of overlap in what's been done already and what's being done with the advocates program. So I'll continue advocating for the advocates, I suppose.
Thank you. No, it's beautiful to hear those updates with CityCoin as well, and also the continued overlap that you've been able to see here. And it's been a long time in the making, thinking about these things, and it's a beautiful thing for sure. So yeah, thank you kindly for the domain work as well. Of course, we appreciate it, and yeah, we'll see what happens in terms of the decentralization of it all. But thank you kindly for staying focused on that over all this time as well, and giving the window of time for folks to give their voice on that as well. But yeah, we can go along. I know Hero may have some updates for us. I don't know. If you have, Hero, have you ever given updates around the buddy system? I know you may have some new ones if you have already, but I know that's one of many things that you may have updates on.
I don't think I've updated in this group, more like just in advocacy. But if interested to know. Essentially, it's just an onboarding system, onboarding flow, because before in the Advocate, it was more text-based onboarding. So you come in and then you are directed to read very good documentations. But I just, when I first joined, I thought that I need some help with explanation with all this text. But I didn't know who to go to, or so to solve my own problem, I kind of realized, okay, so maybe this could be there probably could new ideas around it, so that when somebody comes in, there's actually a dedicated person that you can go to and talk with. And for the first week or first 2 weeks, you will be arranging on a call with somebody. So it's more basically adding a personal touch to the Advocate system. And hopefully, friendship will spur from that first interaction. And it goes back to the ethos of what Harold calls hidden capital and invisible exchanges. Is kind of like non-monetary kind of value, rather than, it's not like you're producing some money there. You're not making a factory product, but you are, by interacting, you are producing something intangible, which is valuable to the ecosystem. I hope I'm making sense. So yeah, just did something on that, and it seems to be, I think people seems to be liking it. So I don't know, it's an ongoing improvement.
Thank you kindly, Hero. No, I know I've enjoyed it so far in terms of getting the chance to know advocates a little bit better, show them around, what's going on, and some of the deeper things going on in advocates that you touched on. That hopefully those visualizations can make more tangible, right? So no, thank you, Kyle. I think you did a beautiful job of explaining some of those harder things to explain. So no, thank you. But yeah, we'll continue with stand-ups and get along with the agenda. If there's anybody else that'd like to share. No pressure either. If you don't want to share, we can always pass. But yeah. Yeah, okay, let's go along then. I think we had enough dead air, enough that I can tolerate anyway. But yeah, I think we usually go through some of this for folks that may not be familiar with it. Some important work here that's been, and I think still being headed up by Juliet. One of the only people that can speak to experience in this particular subject around a community board rep and all the ins and outs in terms of the connections to the foundations and some of the functions of that particular role. I know some of the more recent conversation was the mentioning of a DAO, right, as opposed to a single person, and some of the dedicated work that is required and commitment, right, how it could use some compensation, right? So I think this goes right along with a lot of other things that we'll likely see in these issues in terms of the overlap with what Haas was speaking to and what Jason and the governance working group have been talking about for some time now in terms of some bottom-up models for distribution, right, and decision-making that can help that along. And so, yeah, we're excited to see if there's anything that comes out of that with Juliet. I'm sure that we'll have something for our next session around the combination of these things. But I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to elaborate a little bit on this. I know we went pretty deep into it on previous sessions with Juliet with us, especially helping us along. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else anybody else wants to say about this. But I'll leave the floor open if we do.
Nope, nothing to add.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead to some of these action items then. So we
I have a
have,
question.
yeah, Ryder.
Is that the kind of thing that we could use the consensus flow for?
Yeah, there's always the possibility that of that tooling coming in, like especially with the micro DAOs. One of the points of system design that I didn't make in the stand-up was that if there's anything that comes up, for example, there's issues in the micro DAOs, right? There's means to plugging them right into some of the broader advocates DAO governance mechanisms where the tooling for the journeys and the micro DAOs is very closely linked to, right? In terms of being very similar in use. So we can plug folks right into those governance mechanisms, to resolve any issues that may come up with whatever comes up with the way Juliet approaches, or any other people working with Juliet on this particular path. I know Hero has expressed some interest in this as well, and there's even some overlap with what's going on in Dada for some of the long-term approaches to this, but slightly unrelated. So yeah, I think the consensus flow will be useful for this, and also in terms of gathering people, right? If Juliet wants to gather minds on this, so especially when going through the clan system, maybe I'll touch on this a little bit later in this session, but it seems like this will be a beautiful way of getting consensus on how we should approach this board. Even maybe it's led by some of Juliet's experience, but it's a way of gathering other voices on it as well, beyond this working group. So yeah, thank you for the question, Ryder. I hope that made sense. But it'll maybe make sense a little bit later when we go through some of those flows, potentially. But yeah, thank you, Ryder, again. So there's action items here. I know this Doxify thing you've been working on, right, Jason, and it was just a change of look and some polishing of what our repos look like, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Doxify themes are kind of a drop into the tool we're using. So it'd just be the matter of choosing one, dropping it in, making sure nothing breaks. Just something I haven't had time to research yet, but it will be entirely in line with like the domain that's hosted. It changes automatically when we change GitHub.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and of course, if there's anybody that'd like to get on board with Jason's efforts in this path, this is all open structures for folks to modify as they think should look, or how it should function. And then we have this SIP working group efforts here that I know are very important to Jude and other folks that have ensured that we have these processes here. For folks who are unaware, we have this idea of stacks improvement proposals and different consideration advisory boards in specific categories, right? Whether it's governance or ethics, and so there's diversity and whatever else folks can imagine we need. And I know there's some maybe another good use of consensus flow, right? Or some of our advocates structures in terms of getting more eyes on this and gathering more folks who may be interested in this. But I know it's a fairly important piece of the ecosystem in terms of reviewing important changes according to the different criteria in these different categories. And we've had some experience with myself, Juliet, and Jason in terms of a governance consideration advisory board. And so you just follow a scope, instructions of the scope as you go through your own processes of reviewing, and then ensure that you have an update for the community somehow, if I'm not mistaken, right? But I'll open the floor for other folks to give any other important insights here that we usually cover here for folks, just for the recording sake, if nothing else, if there's folks that are already familiar with it here in this session.
Harold, since Jude and Jason and everybody's here, this is one of the things I was like kind of curious about because I heard you guys talk about it in the previous sessions. So I went in to have a look, and Jude was on a lot of the things. So maybe I'll take this opportunity to ask Jude or Jason or whoever understand this better. So I had a quick look through, like, is that something like, I think some definition of like different categories, like diversity and ethics and stuff. And there are some more like technical stuff ones, which I don't know enough about. But do you think it is something potentially I could join or contribute? Would it be useful? Because what I would like to do is just to bring some the end community perspective, like the user side. What can I bring? How can I voice it for them? And do you guys think, based on, I think Jude knows a little bit because I joined the blockchain dev thing meeting. I don't know why, but I do. Maybe like, do you guys think that's something that would be useful for me to be part of, or do you think it's not something? Yeah, just wonder what you guys think.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's a group that you feel like is more aligned with your interests than others, then by all means, feel free to join. The only duties you really have as a member of one of these boards is whenever there's a SIP with the consideration you're a board member of, you have to give feedback in a timely fashion.
And I was a little bit, would you mind clarifying a little bit the difference between ethnicity, ethics and diversity?
Sure. So ethics, I think, is like maybe more of an abstract concept. Like, so maybe the background, the SIP process is more than just the technical nuts and bolts of the blockchain, but it's the ecosystem itself. Like, if there's anything that needs to be codified for any reason, the SIP process is meant to provide a public forum and governance channel whereby any sorts of, community aspects, norms, or cultural values can be codified in a way that's publicly accessible to any current and future members. So that said, like, there is a consideration advisory board right now for ethics, because that speaks to things like, is it like what sorts of behavior are considered to be like, okay in our community, and what kinds of behavior are not? What should be like our mission statement? What should be our governance, our like North Star for what it is we're trying to do? Diversity differs from ethics in that it's more targeted. It's specific to trying to bring in more individuals into the Stacks ecosystem beyond the set that currently exists now. We believe that Stacks is for everyone, and I really do mean every last person on Earth. So diversity covers things like how do we bring more people in who aren't even necessary, who are especially people who are not technically inclined, since that's the majority of people on Earth.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
To speak specific to like how you've been helping out in the community, for example, like there might one thing that might happen in the future. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do this or anything, but I mean, I'm just saying this is a hypothetical. Suppose that one day there's a SIP for registering an NFT project coming up. Like, I know we have the NFT calendar right now, but let's say hypothetically that becomes a Web3 app. There could be a SIP for that. There could be a technical SIP that also has like a diversity consideration as well, because we would want the NFT we would want some eyeballs on a SIP for promoting NFT projects who help make sure that NFT projects help increase the size of the Stacks community and keep us. And also, we might even consider adding like an ethics consideration track for such a SIP as well, because we want to make sure that do we sanction NFT projects that are copyright violations or not, or do we sanction NFT projects that come from or are built for the purpose of promoting hateful ideologies? Like, these are questions that they sound simple, like they're meant to be just straw man examples, but these are the kinds of questions that might have to be answered in building a public calendar for NFT projects. You see what I mean?
Yeah. I actually, I think I come from a group called Stacks. Well, we created it, and it's all about the rug pulls, and we were researching into the intellectual properties and stuff. And actually, in my past life, I also have some intellectual property experience. It's kind of funny. It seems to be crossing over, but that's ethics, isn't it? And diversity is like bringing everybody in.
Yeah, and there's certainly different aspects of building something like an NFT calendar protocol, whereby ethics and diversity considerations need to be applied. So if you sat on, for example, the Ethics Consideration Advisory Board, and there was such a SIP, one thing that you'd be well within your power to do is say, hey, this SIP needs to speak at least to a potential conflict resolution mechanism, whereby if someone says that their NFTs are being pirated, we have a way to identify them as such and delist them or something like that. And that could be something you could require the SIP author to address before the SIP gets advanced to activation.
Yeah. And could you give an example of like diversity?
Sure. Another aspect of this could be like, we don't list racial supremacist NFTs. Like suppose the Ku Klux Klan decides to go make an NFT project, do we have an obligation to list them? And the answer to that could be no, for the following reasons. And in this particular case, though, what you would say as your membership on the diversity board is you could say, hey, the SIP needs to speak to the following case whereby, you know, someone tries to use the NFT in a way that diminishes the diversity of the Stacks community. How do we deal with this?
Yeah. And did you say which one was more in short? Which one is more needed currently?
Oh, they're both needed. Like, it's fine to be on both if you want to.
Oh, I wasn't. I don't know exactly what they were involved. I wasn't. Yeah, and I'm just curious what they are really. But I'm definitely happy to try out like at least one of them and see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, you probably know me a little bit. Like I'm deep down in the community, like users community side. So whatever I can bring up to help one of the element or those two elements, I'll be happy to give it a go. Like I can't say like I'll do a good job, but I'll definitely give it a try.
A third option you have available to you is the set of consideration advisory boards is open-ended. If you do a deep read of SIP 000, there's a chapter in there that talks about like how do you create a new consideration advisory board. Hypothetically, there could be a consideration advisory board for community relations, and any SIPs tagged with that consideration have to go through whoever sits on that board. And that could be something that's maybe more specific to like, you know, we would have to set up like a charter for that board, like what falls in scope for that board and what doesn't. But one thing that could fall in scope is like, this applies to all SIPs that have something to say about how we interface with users. Like maybe we have a SIP one day that says like we will be guaranteed to use the following different social media platforms or something like that, and that could be tagged with community relations consideration.
Yes, yeah, that's cool. Thanks for explaining.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Connie. Well, I think I learned a lot too. So thank you, Connie. But yeah, if there's anything else on this, leave the floor open. But that was a pretty robust, back and forth. Thank you, Connie. Yeah. Let's see. I think this is Juliet's work, and I think it's on us now. I think we'll be talking about this in a meeting coming up really soon, later today with the advocates. We can look at both the code of conduct, but I think we'll be looking at the advocates code of conduct first, and trying to have different iterations of changes to it, right, going forward. And this will be an important means of getting folks familiar with each other, using the actual tooling for governance consensus that we have mentioned earlier in this session. But also likely be important for folks getting an eye for what may be the folks who have the best handle on what's going on in the ecosystem, the best, the best of us, to reference some of the indigenous modes, that'll make for good representatives in our governance system and advocates. So I think those are the next steps to getting more eyes on, especially the code of conduct for the advocates, and potentially after this as well, this code of conduct, if I think is for the broader ecosystem of Stacks. So I think those are some of the updates that we can give without Juliet here with us. But yeah, unless I'm missing something, I'll leave the floor open for any questions or comments around this. But I'm really excited for having a more iterative code of conduct, which I think was always the intentions with the Advocates Code of Conduct and the others, to have it on GitHub and to be able to get changed. But hopefully some of the tooling makes it a little bit more accessible to folks not so familiar with GitHub or newcomers into the system. But yeah. And here we can get into a little bit more of what's been going on. There's a little screenshot of what Haas has been working on. And Haas, maybe you want to give an actual demo if you're still here with us. This might be a good time for folks who've never seen it before. There's a little information here, and I can probably link to the residence updates for even more details than this. I guess I have here already. But yeah, Haas, do you want to give us any live views of this or some of the stuff going on in the main server? I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah. I can give a quick demo. But can you give me like permission to share my screen? Permission to everyone. I think it's easier. While Harold is sorting that out, I think I can speak to some tech background. The MicroDAO contract. Oh, I have it now. Thank you. The MicroDAO contract is basically a simple 240 lines of code that are intended to be as readable as possible to developers and also regular people. I think that was like the original intention of Clarity itself, being like a simple language, which is something I appreciated. Working with Clarity, it took me like 2 days to do like a stupid but huge big contract. I can give you guys a demo, but let's play in the Stacks server. Yeah. So hope you can see my screen. You probably can. I'll zoom in a little bit. The MicroDAO interface is a bot I call Destacular from Discord and Stacks. It's this grumpy face right here. I made this logo myself on Microsoft Paint. To create a MicroDAO, all you need is like a name. So, for example, Gov Working Group. For example, this is the name of the contract that's going to be deployed to the blockchain. And then you check to see like how much time people have got to send to a funding proposal. So yeah, usually I would pick the most time for most sensitive, but if like it's a small team, a lot of decisions happening. It's probably just gonna one day is good. Of course, this is just like an alpha, so it doesn't matter. So I pick 3 days. And a micro DAO is a micro DAO, so it should not contain more than 8 members. You're one of them. The code itself uses your BNS name to get your address and put it in hard coded into the contract. So let's say I put Freaker and who's our lucky winner? Not Trevor. It's nope, not that dude. Okay, Algorithm. I love that dude. And hopefully, if Algorithm, no, I'm not sure if Algorithm, the name has some stuff in it. Let's go with Caitlin. Yeah, I think that's a good choice. And yeah, I'm not gonna pick any more members. It's just gonna be the 3 of us. I'm just gonna create a microdAO. Caitlin does not own that address. Thank you, Caitlin. Let's go again. Go working group, 3 days. Readger and someone I can trust. Harold.
You can try Harold, you can try mine.
Okay,
Whoa,
let's
buddy.
go with whoa, buddy. Yes, so this creates like a database entry with like the members, addresses, and so on. Damn it. Okay, I show my whole desktop. I've got nothing to hide. So this is like the link that Discord, gives you to just like create the DAO. So this is my address for my name on Discord, Harold and
That
Jason.
one's me.
And once you click on create DAO, you can preview the contract. This is not mine, of course. This is not my app, of course. And every microdAO is raised to a trait, has a trait for microdAOs if you want to check that out, and the members. So these are the members, the person who creates the contract and the 2 people that I added. This is basically it when it comes to creating. I don't want to create a smart contract right now, so bear with me. I'll also, let's say I want to do some more things. I can deposit into the microdAOs that I've joined. So I'll select the DAO. This is the Bitcoin Pizza. This is GoFlap. Confirm transaction. And so on. It's almost the same interface. It's just like connecting Discord to this, to interacting with the microdAO contracts. We have all these functions: create, deposit, fund to proposals, dissent, and fund to proposals. So this is like a small demo. The fund to proposal is like just like in Arcadico or other DAOs, you just like have a GitHub link for whatever fund to proposal or proposal that you have, and the list of recipients and the amounts in SDX. And that's about it for the fund to proposal and other things. I wanted to because we don't have that much time, but I wanted to use this time to mention like a few possibilities for these microdAOs that are possible because of the system design, also like accidentally because of the way Clarity works. MicrodAOs can send or create funded proposals that send to other microdAOs. So you can create a MetaDAO that has representatives of microdAOs. It eventually maybe like it could be instead of representatives, it could be like actual microdAOs. But if it's still like a consensus mechanism, you don't need to think about like including other contracts. I think representatives are enough, and the representatives would convince their respective DAOs to contribute to that microdAO for some weird thing that they want to collaborate on. MicroDAOs are also accessible through Discord. The contract itself has like some comments that make it easy to read through. I try to communicate as much as possible with people who want to integrate micro contracts and do reading of the contract during that integration, so that it's a more honest conversation and a more accessible conversation. And yeah, Ryder, you had a question.
Yeah, so I'm trying to follow from what you said in the demo. So if I wanted to give Merrick money and it would only, through the MicroDAO, Merrick would have to be a member of a MicroDAO, right?
No.
Okay, so I can just propose to send, go ahead. I can propose to send money to Merrick using the deposit.
Using create funding proposal, because
Sorry, that's what I meant, create funding proposal. And
Yeah.
then, but I didn't see a dissent period. So does that mean that Merrick doesn't have a choice whether he wants to receive that money?
No, the dissent period itself is static for the MicroDAO. You can't change that. It's the default that you set when you created the contract. And it is used for all funding proposals afterwards.
I understand that, but if I just go in and create a funding proposal without creating a MicroDAO, like without using the create MicroDAO function, then what is the dissent period for the person who I'm attempting to fund?
The dissent period is, go ahead, Merrick.
A property of like cryptocurrency is that a person receiving funds cannot like dissent to receiving funds. Like I just kind of realized that like you
Yeah.
can send anyone money and there's no consent about whether they can receive. So you would
I
have
know
to
that, that's
build
why I'm
it. So you would have
yeah.
to build it into the contract, and that's okay. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine. Sorry, maybe because my video is not showing my, but that's what I'm saying, like, where's the dissent?
There isn't any. If I think it's okay, if the dissent, I think it can be, if someone wants to dissent for money that they received, they can send it back.
I like that. They can send it back. Okay, thank you.
Can the MicroDAO can send to grantees that are not members of the DAO? Is that, yeah, okay, cool.
It's basically built so that people can pay people that help them with like tasks and such, and pay themselves in a transparent way.
It's really cool to see the very beginning of this tooling, because when I go and try to use something like Tip Party, I just get so lost and like I end up not knowing how to use it. And this is like, since it's like, I guess because it's hard wired or whatever, like I just can just use a Discord name depending on if it's like the same name, and it's just like really amazing how easy it is right now, like right out of the box.
Except Caitlin, don't use Caitlin.
A lot of people's names on Discord are not their actual BTC names. I think algorithms like
Jenny too.
Kickstarter or something, yeah.
Until the
And now it really has value, you know.
Finally has. I know we didn't, this has been a good session, and we're almost at the end of it now, but I know we didn't get a chance to go through some of the consensus flow demo, or the decision making demo that is very similar to what we just saw in some of the tooling that we can use together with it. I don't know, we want to use some of the last bit of time to show folks some of that haven't seen it, maybe what's in the main server or something, but I'll leave it up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be a shorter one because it's more about like community engagement and so on. But let's be dismissive with the bot. The consensus flow itself is basically someone like me complaining about the grain distribution, that there isn't enough for cooldown weeks, so on, and other people just like contributing to this discussion through at the thread, you can, how can I, yes, open full view is much better. Like Freaker is just asking questions, and we're just like deliberating on it, and we had like I think the best contribution to this discussion was from Werner, where he did all this math that I couldn't get my head around, and then like simplified it into this equation that we're going to just like take 42% of the funds received in a cycle. This is like one example of this. Another example is the current discussion around getting payments in XBDC. This included like some resistance, but then some support to like where the most important part was here when Freaker just like expressed his suffering with BTC to STX. And I think we had alignment on that and some empathy as well. I think another highlight has been like from Marek explaining like his experience with looking into XBDC, and you know the unwrapping being like almost impossible, and then like Freaker responded that here. And also like someone didn't know how to convert XBDC to STX, so it's like recorded a 1 minute tutorial for this. So it's this generative discussion that then we're currently acting on. So I just like said, we have consensus, let's act on this. And then we got the math right. And this is how this is working. Any questions?
I love the way the discussion is like centered around the topic at hand. Definitely, you know, gives you a way to kind of filter through all the information we get in Discord and everything else, and have a good focus on things. So once you got the math right and you're ready to move to the next step, like what happens next?
Yeah, we have like 5 days as well here for deliberation, and you know you could feel the room, which is nice. You know, this is more of a bottom-up system design, so like you have small communities, tightly knit communities that that you can feel the room where this is going. If there's like strong dissent or strong disagreement, but after like you get the feel of the room, basically you start acting. So like this is going to be like actions on the source grid end of things, like changing the grain output and formalizing it. So like after the 5 days period that I mentioned passes, this goes to formal proposal as a formality. This is like a huge distinction, as a formality to just like say, okay, this proposal is open for dissent if we didn't get the consensus. This is just like a mechanism to prevent people from like having proposals that didn't have enough discussion passed through and through some bugginess or anything. But it's a pretty tight community that I think even like the dissent and the formality itself is just like for logging, not even for like actual formal dissent. Like at this period, like it's always expressed in the discussion, and this is like has been a pretty interesting insight. These are like vestiges of the old system where we had just like only formal proposals, where like I posted stuff like this. give us 2%. So it was way back last year. But yeah, basically that.
Awesome. No, that makes total sense, and I love it. You know, what we were just doing with the Citicoins community is very similar to this process, because we went through a few formal discussions and calls to kind of get everybody on the same page. Then we took what was decided on and we made something official, and then we put the vote on chain for something official. But that same exact flow feels very similar to what you're describing here, and continues to raise my excitement for it. And we'll have to touch base. I'd like to get some more info.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know if you'd like to integrate it. I'd love to work together on this. This tooling is definitely pluggable into it, like any community. But I think I'm
Awesome.
done. Yeah, thank you.
No, yeah, and I know we probably won't have time to get into some of the system design stuff that we are excited that wrap around this, and you know, very much built into it too. With you see the active issues and formal, and some of the streamlining mechanisms that we've witnessed in the indigenous modes, right? Instead of streamlining by minimizing voices, we've seen these mechanisms for streamlining, you know, is maximum amount of voices, right? Including as many voices as possible, as you alluded to earlier. And not just that, but also streamlining of distribution of power. There's a little bit of, you know, insight into some of the flows of the system design that we are coming up with, where we have these autonomous processes for women and men, for example, right? And you know, some communication between representatives while those autonomous processes happen, and then coming together in the formalization process. Right? So this will be real-time meetings, hopefully, or thread-like discussions for folks who are unable to meet real-time, like you said, and different legitimacy mechanisms too that will come right from these indigenous modes. But it's very interesting, some of the streamlining that we've seen that is referenced here a little bit as well, of distribution between male and female decision making, and you know, the capacities for consensus. And so along with streamlining as many voices as possible, streamlining distributed power to as many voices as possible, also streamlining distributed power between different folks. And so yeah, this is pretty much where we are with you know, introducing folks today to, you know, taking up some of these models and using them alongside the tooling for some pretty exciting things. So I'll shut up now, just so that folks don't have to endure so much more of this. But I'm excited for the next session, where maybe we get a little bit deeper into the nuances and discussion around this. But yeah, let's see, somebody coming in here late.
May I ask one last question?
Of course, please.
Okay. So it's sorry, a little bit back to earlier conversation about SIP. So the question is to Jude, like, do you think there is a value for, you know, that particular doc to be more to be accessible to users, so that they can know the good work that and good like thinking behind the chain? Because I'm thinking like currently people don't know it, and actually there's a lot of thinking that go into it that the end user don't know. And would it, you know, is it something that you want people to know and highlight it to the end users?
Yeah, absolutely. People should know how things get done around here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm thinking that's maybe one of the things I can bridge to the communities or sub-communities.
Yeah, if you're able to move the needle on that, like, we'd be more than welcome.
Yeah, no, as long as you find that that it's something that, you know, the more people know the ethos behind Stacks, you know, I think then it helps bring everybody into the same. It's just like educational, but also like, okay, people who believe in it, they understand, they will join this this force, and people who don't care, okay, they can, you know, they can do whatever they want. But I feel like it's because I did read through it, And it was such a good talk that maybe, you know, normal people who come into Stacks, they just joined, you know, it would be nice for them to understand there's a lot of thinking that goes in behind the design.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to figure out ways to do that effectively for a while, but I mean, we haven't had much success clearly. But yeah, we'd more than love to have your help in bringing this to more people's attention. I'm all ears as to how you think would be a good way to do that.
Yeah, I'll have to think about it. But yeah, cool.
Well, no, thank you kindly for bringing this back up. It's fine if it's a different topic here, or if you, as long as you don't forget to bring it up. I think is the most important thing. So thank you kindly for interrupting. But yeah, I moved on to some of the discussion items that we've had here. This is something that I added this morning, taking note of, I think it's Runa's from Discord and an open discussion in the Advocates DAO. Brought up some interesting concerns that I guess there's some conversation been stacking up around community mining initiatives. You mentioned some things around the Stacks Grants program and considered efforts, right, with projects that have mining or miners directly involved in the project or indirectly involved at least. And yeah, there's some interesting points of discussion that I wanted to open up for the floor here, just in case. I know we're past time now, and maybe we have it for later, a later session, or maybe we communicate on it in the between time of our next session. I thought it was fairly important. There's some overlap in, I know what we want to do in the GovLab milestone. So, and maybe some overlap with work with Jason and CityCoins, right? So this is something that I wanted to bring up just briefly for folks. But yeah, we can maybe have it for next time, especially if we've lost Jason now, maybe. So yeah, but yeah, I'll leave it for the floor briefly. Folks have any concise thoughts on this, considering time? But yeah, well, I guess we'll save it for next session. I think there is some more discussion here from, I think this was Philip originally. I think there's a lot of overlap in what we have already to show. I think Philip will be kind of blown away by what Hans has been working on when it comes to these funding proposals and micro DAOs and whatnot. So we're excited to show that to him, and maybe we'll link this recording of this session to him in this thread, so he can start following along as much as possible. It tends to be in an airport whenever I say these meetings are going on, so I didn't even try to ask today, but I'll definitely ping him. But yeah, I think some of these other things we go over pretty often in these sessions.
Watt Electric, this is Freddie. How can I help you?
Oh, Fred, you're unmuted. Let me see if I can mute him. Yeah. All right. But yeah, I know there's some backlog stuff here, along with some other discussion items. Let me know if anybody wants to go over some of these. I know there's a lot of overlap with what we're talking about with the bounties, the Governance Lab initiative. We've been pretty much discussing since the beginning around what some of the things that we're doing. Maybe be closed out. But yeah, this has been a beautiful session, y'all. I know we're quite a bit over time now, and thank you kindly for your time. I'll leave the floor open if there's anything folks just had on their mind or some miscellaneous stuff that we skipped over potentially. But thank you kindly for all the demos, Haas. I know this will be useful for folks, and hopefully we get a little bit more into the system design the next session. So I'll be excited for finding the language around that for you guys next time coming up. But yeah, thank you kindly, y'all. Beautiful session. Thank you kindly. I'll stop the recording. Have a good day, y'all.